All right, welcome into the Boston Sports Beat. Greg, let's start with Sunday. It's just about as bad a performance you could see start to finish from the Patriots in almost this is a classic Bill Belichick, every phase of the game sort of loss. Were you surprised how bad they were at so many different things against the Saints, which is starting with protection, receivers unable to catch the ball, really just, another, game-killing drive at the end where the defense couldn't get off the field. There's just so many things to point to. It's almost hard to focus on where the main issue is here.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised they were inept in every area, just about. I mean, they played, good defense at times, but they didn't play timely defense. They didn't play good situational defense. So, to me, they were pretty inept in every phase. And so, that surprises me. It's still early. It's still a new team and all that, but there's no excuse to come out at home where they're now 0-2, by the way, with 2 games that they probably should have won or could have won. They're 0-2. This just continues what we saw from the end of 2019, all of 2020. Now they have not played consistent winning football in a long time. And it's a surprise.
Yeah. So just looking at Mac Jones, and again, there's a million things to point to for why things weren't better for him and the Patriots offense. But one thing that was interesting, and you were able to capture over on Boston Sports Journal, was a scene after the game where Mac, who obviously disappointed in his own performance, had the 3 INTs. You can't blame him for necessarily all of them there. Had a tough time with the Saints, definitely held on to the ball a little longer. The pressure was getting to him. The line didn't help at all. But this was a thing people talked about, and you talked about in camp. He has a reputation for really getting down on himself, and sometimes he needs to get picked back up. And that's a thing with him, is he's got to get out of his own head, because things can snowball for him. And there was a scene where your photographer at Boston Sports Journal grabbed with Bill Belichick grabbing Mac's wrist and leading him to the tunnel after the game, like, let's go. How do you interpret what you saw there?
Yeah, Adam Richins, tuned me into that. I had no idea. I mean, I did see him towards the end of the telecast sitting there on the bench, and which I thought was a little bit odd. After the game concluded, or at least the game was over. And mind you, you have to understand the timing of this. So Mac Jones sat on the bench there, looking dejected and all that. Jameis Winston had time to basically he had to walk all the way across the field to say good game to Mac Jones. That means he had to walk all the way through. He probably was looking around like, where's Mac Jones? And then he's there on the bench. Bill Belichick, mind you, probably went out there, talked to Sean Payton and what have you, turned around and probably saw the Winston thing. And Mac started to get up and go towards the field to say hi to some of the players. But I'm sure Belichick saw it out of the corner of his eyes, like, why is Mac Jones still on the bench? Like, what is going on? And so he went over and he grabbed his wrist. I don't know why he needed to do that, but I think the message was, and I thought he just could have whispered in his ear. Maybe he's very cognizant about people overhearing him on the sideline. But I think basically the message was, dude, what the hell are you doing? This is the National Football League. You're going to lose games, and hopefully you're a good player. Hopefully you're going to lose a lot of games in this league, which means you've played for a lot of years in this league. Get your ass off the bench and get in the locker room. We don't sit here and feel sorry for ourselves, especially with the Patriots. And so I think that was the message. I think the message also was, look, I understand you played at a good high school and you played at Alabama. You're going to lose some freaking games.
Right.
Like, it's not about you. It's about the team. Get up. Hey, it's over. Boom, it's over. Wash your hands of it. Let's move on to Tampa, because we don't have time to feel sorry for ourselves. So get your ass in the locker room and move on.
Okay. And so here we are in Tom Brady week, and Mac Jones and the Patriots are coming off as bad a performance as you can have in a game that you already don't expect them to win or possibly even to be competitive in. But the story's going to be more about Bill versus Bill versus Brady. And again, we talked about this last week. The scoreboard's clear. Brady's up 1-0 in a resounding knockout, first round, or a 10-8 round, if you want to call it that. So there's no question. But again, the questions are going to start. Bill Belichick was asked about it on Monday. The picture he paints is Tom didn't necessarily want to come here. And here was the exchange he had with a reporter at his early availability on Monday.
You spoke on WEEI today about Tom Brady looking at his options, and he decided Tampa was a better option. Why weren't the Patriots a better option for him when both Robert Kraft and Brady himself said over and over how much they wanted him to finish his career here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to go back and rehash all that. We've talked about that. Really, my focus right now is on the. Yeah, my focus is on the game here. And look, I have so much respect and appreciation for Tom and everything he did here, and for me and for our team. And we're just getting ready to compete against Tampa this week, and we're going to keep our focus on that.
But you talk about rehashing dynamics that you've already gone through. You've never done that.
Yeah, we made a statement when Tom left, and that covered it.
You surprised how well he's played? He's thrown 61 touchdown passes in 23 games down there. Won a Super Bowl. Yeah,
Tom's a great player. Nothing surprises me that he does.
So, Greg, what's your thought there? Again, Tom, the situation was better for Tom in Tampa. He wanted to go there. We wanted him back, all of that stuff. I don't know that that's the case here in how this went down. I mean, if the Patriots really wanted Tom Brady back, Tom Brady's back.
Yeah, I mean, it was Bill being Bill. He's deflecting. He's standing behind some statement that nobody remembers from a couple years ago, and it's just typical Bill, because he doesn't want to answer any questions on it. So he just says, "Oh, we said plenty back then." Look, at the end, Bill might be right about where basically Tampa had a better offer, and
sure,
they were offering more money than the Patriots were. They had better personnel. Yes, in that that microcosm of a decision, yeah, Tampa was probably the better choice, and Tom took them. But we all know that's not what this is about. This is about years building up to Tom's exit to Tampa, and the Patriots. The bottom line is the Patriots had multiple opportunities to make sure Tom Brady knew he was valued here, that they wanted him here, and would make the financial commitment to him and all those things that he wanted, and they just failed to do it. And Bill has his reasons. It'd be nice to hear him actually flesh them out. He'll never do that.
Nope.
Including Tom Brady being 40 and being it's never been done before what Tom Brady's doing and all that stuff. I understand. But the bottom line is Tom could have been here. And the reason he's not is because of Bill Belichick and the Patriots.
And again, to admit it is to admit a mistake, which is to say he can obviously still play, and he can obviously still play at a high level. But the reasoning behind wanting to move on from a 40-something-year-old quarterback is sound, and one that many teams would also employ, which is he's friggin' 40. He's going to fall off a cliff at some point, and I don't want to be sitting here holding the bag. So it's understandable. It just keeps getting proven wrong, and Brady keeps proving people wrong. He proved people wrong here in New England in the last couple of years when people thought he was washed by winning a couple more Super Bowls, and obviously he did it moving on to Tampa. So yes, it's Bill being Bill, and it's going to be a full week of this and Brady hype. Personally, I find it boring because the Patriots have enough problems of their own. McCourty, I thought, put it great in the postgame. We can't look at headlines. We're a mess, basically. And if you're a Patriots fan right now, great, Tom's coming back, but you got to be super concerned with what you're seeing on the field from this team.
Oh, absolutely. And, quickly, when I got home last night after doing, some of my work at the stadium, I got home and I spun through the TV copy of the game real quick, because it's much easier. You get lost in a lot of stuff at
Sure.
the game. And so I just wanted a different look, and I just came away thinking, and I wrote about this today at bostonsportsjournal.com. We've heard Belichick come out and say we were out coached, we were outplayed. That's really about one Sunday, maybe another coaching staff getting over on the Patriots. This was not about that. This was about the Patriots looking inept. They looked poorly coached. in just about every single area, and it needs to get better real quick. And it's not just the players, it's the coaches. The coaches have to coach them better, or else this is not going to, we've seen in years past. I've said these same things. I remember saying these same things after the Monday night debacle in Kansas City, where I said, this team is better than this.
Right.
The coaches have to coach their way out of it, and they end up doing it. The Patriots have done that year after year. Can they do it now with the current coaching staff, with the current mix of players? It's a humongous question, John.
So that's the most perplexing thing, Greg, is exactly that. It's you spend this money in the offseason, great. You bring these players in here. You're not talking about, you didn't go out there and get prime Julio Jones, or prime Rob Gronkowski, but you've got players who have experienced success other places. Typically, the Patriots' MO is to get these players and to unlock their full potential here, which is, you've been using them like this. Wait till they come here. We've got so many plans and designs for what these guys are going to do. It's just strange to see them flounder like they have in the early going. And begs the question, what is the plan? Was there a plan? Is there a design for what they want to do with Aguilar or Jonnu Smith? Or is it just, are they not doing it? Is it a performance issue? Is it a scheme issue? It's really hard to pinpoint right now why everyone looks like, why they look like a dead average across the board team.
I think it's a different answer for just about everybody. I mean, with Jonnu Smith, he's had opportunities. He just drops them.
Right.
I mean, he had 3 drops on Sunday. He couldn't block either. He's had other issues in other games. Aguilar, I think, is more about protection for, I think Kendrick Bourne did a really nice job on Sunday. But, I mean, I think offensively, everything starts with the protection of the quarterback. When Mac Jones is kept clean, he's really, really good. And he's fine under duress too. And we know he's going to be under duress. But it just was not good enough, the protection for him, especially in the first half as things got away from this team. It was not good enough on Sunday. And until they clean that up, until they clean the ability to have a really good running game, like we talked about before the season, about, protecting the quarterback and allowing him to find these new weapons, all of it's all the rest is moot, John. I mean, they're not doing the basic things that we thought they would, like have dominating offensive line play. And from there, it's just been a trickle down effect.
Yeah, that's the killer for sure, Greg. I think you nailed it. Is what was probably the one you can count on it, strength of the team was offensive line. And you're right. The trickle down effect from there right now is a total collapse of the offense. So you're right. You don't have the one thing you thought you could count on. It's keeping them from being able to do virtually everything else. So it definitely starts there. We'll see if Trent Brown is healthy enough to play this week. It'll make a difference, but everyone else has to step up their game too. As Greg mentioned, a lot of good stuff over at Boston Sports Journal. Please head over there, subscribe if you haven't already. $39 a year, $5.99 a month, 11 cents a day. Best Boston sports coverage in town. All right, let's talk some baseball. Bring in Sean McAdam of the Boston Sports Journal. And Sean, we had very, very simple instructions for the Red Sox when you and I last spoke on Friday.
We laid it out so easily for them.
It just couldn't. It was just one simple thing, which is don't get swept.
Right. Whatever you do.
Yeah. That's it. There's one secret.
They had one job.
You had one job. And it wasn't just that they got swept, because at the end of the day, there's no reason to paint a gloomier picture than exists. The reality is they're still likely to make the playoffs based off of who their competition is going to be playing down the stretch. We'll break that down in a second. It's the manner in which they lost these games. Their bullpen is obviously in shambles right now with injuries and a lot of other things going on. But just back to blow those leads late in the way that they did, such resounding fashion, to watch Stanton hit balls 700 feet over the monster, just late in a game that you played well. The defensive miscues last night, that weird thing with Vasquez on the transfer, a strike 3 to Judge, and it wasn't called that, and that was that. And there's just a million things that went into just a very, very frustrating weekend for Red Sox fans and the Red Sox, I'm sure. Yeah.
To have the lead in the 8th inning on both Saturday and Sunday and give up 4 runs in each of those 8 innings and go on to lose games that you were leading with, in some cases, just 4 outs to go. That was the case on Saturday. They had 2 strikes and 2 outs in the 8th inning and somehow ended up losing that game. And then Sunday night was, in its own way, even worse. You referenced the defensive sloppiness. Bobby Dahlbeck unable to make a play on Judge even before the drop 3rd strike. That was Joe West's fault, not so much Christian Vasquez's fault,
Sure.
But don't let it get to that point. And that's what they did. So you've got a bullpen that certainly has all sorts of issues at this point. With Garrett Whitlock unavailable, with Josh Taylor unavailable, no defined roles, and that is as troubling, if not more, than the actual results. Because as you pointed out, John, they're likely to overcome this, but it leaves you asking the question, what's going to be left of them if they get into that wild card? They may get in, but how far they'll go is going to be dictated by, obviously, how well things happen in terms of, where your bullpen is operating.
Right. And again, just to lay out the schedule for everybody, and I'm sure, people know it, but it's 3 with the Orioles, 3 with the Nationals, 2 teams that are, bottom of the division. And so the schedule is favorable. But again, those games are away from Fenway, and the Sox are a totally different team there. So nothing is certain, but you've got teams who haven't had anything to play for, who also don't have a lot of talent, even if they did care. So that lines up well. And the Yankees are playing the Blue Jays, and then they're playing the Rays. So they still have a tough road. I guess what's strange, it's not like rooting for a team is going to make a difference. But at this point, if you're the Red Sox, you have to be as worried about the team behind you as the team in front of you. And so you wonder, is it better for the Yankees to smoke the Blue Jays here in this series, create some distance, and then worry about the rest later? Because a few days ago it was home game is all but assured, and now it's let's just make sure you get in.
Yeah, well, I think the answer is you don't want either team to sweep. That gives them momentum and vaults one team either further ahead of you than they already are. That's the Yankees with a game, or allows the Blue Jays to perhaps leapfrog you if you slip at all against Baltimore. So I think the prescribed formula would be Toronto to take 2 and the Yankees to take 1, while the Red Sox are, of course, sweeping the horrendous Orioles, whom they've beaten 12 of the last 13 meetings. And then, you referenced Washington, and people say, well, they're above 400. Yeah, they're in last place. No, they're playing about 320 ball since the deadline when they auctioned off half their roster. So you have to look at what they have left. They're as bad as any team in the National League. I mean, let's set the bar low since they didn't listen last time, John. 4-2 should at least get the Red Sox one of the spots, and perhaps even a home game, because as we noted, the Yankees are unlikely to have that same kind of record against 2 good opponents, Toronto and Tampa. So if the Red Sox were to go 4-2, and another important thing to remember, a tie favors the Red Sox because they won the season series against the Yankees 10-9. So if they can just make up one of those games, in other words, Red Sox win on Tuesday, Yankees lose to Toronto, it's tied again, but in essence, the Red Sox have a game lead because they get the tiebreaker if it comes down to that.
Yeah. So what's strange here too is, not just the conversation we had Friday, everything should be fine, just don't get swept, but just they were playing so well in so many facets of the game, and to watch so many things break down and your flaws exposed in such an obvious way. And again, right now it's very clearly for this team, defense and the bullpen, that are the things that are potentially doom a long October run.
Yeah,
and you just saw it.
I'd agree with you on the bullpen. I'm not quite sure about the defense. Look, it's a question mark. There's no getting around that. If they get in, it's going to be something you are going to worry about. But I would point out that before, and incidentally, they did play errorless ball last night because there was not an error charged on Dahlbeck, and the whole Vasquez thing was an umpire mistake.
Sure.
They've now played 8 straight games without an error. So they've been a little more efficient in the field. They've converted more balls into outs. Sunday night was kind of what we've seen a lot of this season, but to be fair to them, it's the first one of those games in a while. So I'd say the bullpen is a far bigger worry than the quality of the team defense as we go into the last week.
Simply because you're just almost out of arms. It's there's nothing you can do there unless they get right.
Yeah,
so
you've got Taylor and Whitlock on the IL, and Barnes without a clue at this point. Ottavino, we saw how that worked out. Richards has actually performed pretty well. You have Houck, but neither of those guys is an experienced 8th or 9th inning guy. They've been able to give you bulk and serve as that sort of bridge from the starting pitcher to the late inning guys. The problem is you don't have those late inning guys in place right now.
Yeah. So that's where they are right now. Game back of the Yankees taking on the Orioles in a series starting tomorrow. Chris Sale, obviously, good for what ails you. He'll be on the mound there. It lined up to make 2 starts if necessary, but you obviously don't want it to get there because you would obviously want to save him for that 1-game playoff situation, assuming that they make it there. So again, Sean, next time we talk, we'll see if they listened. To our instructions, but right now Sox are still in by a razor thin margin. Sean McAdam, thanks a lot.
Thanks, John.
All right, switching gears to basketball, let's bring in Sherrod Blakely, Celtics insider, and Celtics had media day. Sherrod, you were down there. This is the official start of the season, and that's it. Training camp starting on Tuesday, preseason game on Monday. We get to see some actual basketball, but before that, it's that time of year where everything is awesome, right? Everyone looks great. They're in shape. They worked out. All of their ailments have healed. Everyone's worked on the part of their game they needed to, and it's going to be great this year. So everything is awesome, at least for now. Your top takeaways from media day, day one.
Well, the biggest question coming in there was Jaylen Brown and where he was health-wise. And, he's going to be cleared to go full go in practice. But he did mention that he's still having some swelling in that surgically repaired left wrist of his that, near the end of the season kind of cut short, which was a breakout season when he suffered the torn ligament injury. Beyond that, the one thing that really jumped out about this media day was just there seems to be a pivot or shift in the focus of this team that for the past few years, they've really been about developing their young guys. But now it seems there's more of a desire to bring in established vets so that you don't have to have 2 or 3 guys who are manning, the kiddies in daycare. You actually got grown-ass men out there ready to go to war night in, night out, which I think is going to give them a chance to be more competitive than we saw last season.
Again, that's the hope, I guess, here with this team is that they were relying on guys who maybe they shouldn't have relied on as much as they did last year. And I do like the Jaylen and Jason buy-in. I don't love hearing Jaylen talking about good days and bad days with his wrist. It would be fine if this was always part of the plan, but he's well within that range of recovery where you'd really hope for him to be like 100% clear right now. And the fact that there's some discomfort or swelling or things like that from time to time, I know he tried to play it off by saying, I feel great. Don't worry about it. Even the bad days are good and my body feels right. I do believe the rest of his body might feel good because he had knees, he had a bunch of other issues, and he was breaking down for a lot of last year, kind of early in the year after that incredibly hot start. So you hope the wrist isn't an issue. Again, it being his off wrist is a little bit better, but you don't want him hindered at all there to start the season. And hopefully it's not a thing that lingers for too long. Couple of other takeaways here. Rob Williams looked like he bulked up a little bit, which is nice. He had a very cool and confident demeanor when talking. He was very excited about his extension. And Marcus Smart also with a good bit of swagger, which he always has, but being handed basically the keys to the car. He is the starting point guard of this team. He has his coach's full endorsement, and he really has a fully defined role for maybe the first time ever here, where he's not asked to be a little bit of a point, a little bit of a 2, go in there and guard a 4. He's their point guard, and he seems pretty psyched about it.
Yeah, he's very psyched about it. And again, Marcus, he's shown the ability to be a serviceable point guard. It's just that he's always had to split that role with other assignments at the offensive end of the floor. But the fact that he's got guys around him now where there's going to be better shooting on the floor at most positions when he's out there, something that he didn't always have that luxury of. So I do anticipate we'll see less threes from Marcus Smart this year, which, again, there's only 3 guys in Celtics history that have made more threes than Marcus Smart. And you're talking about Paul Pierce, Antoine Walker, and Ray Allen. So the idea that Marcus Smart will take fewer threes, for most of us, I think a lot of people see that as a refreshing thing, but it will be a dramatic change from what we've seen in the past from him. I think he's going to get back to being an upper echelon elite defender. Last year, I thought he was good, but I didn't think he was exceptionally good the way we've seen him in past years. I think he'll get back to being that type of defender, and that's a big part of this Celtics team trying to, frankly, outperform the expectations, which are not that high for them this year.
Yeah, and Smart is going to be big, and I mentioned Rob, in the same breath. There's another guy who I think is integral to the team taking a step forward. I mean, this is a 500 team from a year ago, and I think even last year on a team that had Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart on it, that Rob Williams was clearly the third best player on that team, and he has a chance to really take a leap into. He really is an X factor in so many ways. Mm-hmm. His health, his role, his minutes, and his overall evolution. What can he become? This is a sky's the limit sort of player, and you just wonder. One day you may show up and he might just be that guy. And so, really excited to see him on a basketball court playing with these guys as a starter without, again, looking over his shoulder. That's something Marcus also said too. Mm-hmm. I know you have Al Horford in there as well, but I don't think that's standing in the way of Rob as well. Horford also was great at media day. He seems really giddy to be back, so that's a nice addition. We got to hear from Dennis Schroeder. We got to hear from Josh Richardson. So on the whole, as you mentioned, Sherrod, a lot of veterans here who know how to play basketball, who know what it is they do well, who are going to be asked to do those things. So hopefully things are trending in a positive direction for the Celtics after what was admittedly a really subpar season by their standards. Thanks to Sherrod Blakely, Sean McAdam, Greg Bedard, everyone joining us on this podcast. We'll see you guys next time.